Now, how do we acquire financial reserves? And acquiring financial reserves come from 5 things. And I'll let you know what the 5 things are, and then I'll go down into detail what each of them require us to do. The first thing is having a sustainable, stable income. Right? The second one is having reserves to cater for catastrophe that might affect your income. The third one is having protection of your wealth and reserves. The fourth thing is having multiple sources of income, my favorite topic. And finally, personal growth and development. So let's take this one at a time. Let's talk about sustainable income. Well, whatever income source you have to begin to look at whether your income is something that's stable, whether it's sustainable, how is it going to be like in the future. And that relates to the industry you're in. We often say that sunset industry, the sunrise industry. Or sunset industry, an industry that is going down, slowing down, and becoming less and less important. Well, sunrise industry are the up-and-coming industry which will grow, which will have great potentials, will have potential growth. So you need to find for yourself which industry you're in, and is it on a downward cycle or is it on an upward cycle, right? And that will help you have some idea in terms of how you are doing in terms of the industry that will give you the kind of stability and sustainability. The second part is the types of income that you are presently on. Now, there are some people who go into a job or in an income state whereby they make quick money, short burst quick money in a very beginning part of the career, but may find it difficult to sustain the kind of income, right? A typical example is possibly, and not always, where you go into a trade whereby you sell a certain thing. Like, for example, you are a property agent and you sell property. Now, if a person comes into that trade and he go out there and sell property, he might probably sell it to his friends, his uncle, his auntie, and all the people you know. And then after a while, and he make a lot of money in the beginning, but after that, he run out of friends and relatives and uncles and aunties. And if he does not have the ability to go beyond what I call the warm market, then that money is going to slow down and it's not going to be there. Yeah. So these are possible situations that some people are in. On the other hand, there are also income sources that are long-term, steady income. That means you build it as you go along. A job typically would be like that. And some other kind of business would probably have this kind of situation where you don't see big money in the beginning, but as the more you spend time on it, the more you work on that income, the steadier it becomes and the more solid it becomes. A third possibility is cyclical. That means your income is very dependent on the cycle. For example, some people make a lot of money during festive season because they are in a certain trade where they make the money, but during the non-seasonal period, they will have a low income. So if you have a cyclical type of income, then you have to weather that through for the low end, the low part, and be able to ensure that you have reserves to carry you through when the income is not forthcoming. All right, so be aware of the income pattern that you have. The other thing is your organization that you are in or that you work in, and there's the culture that you're in. Certain types of businesses or organizations, they are high-risk business, high risk. They come, they make money and they disappear. So your income is not going to be very sustainable if you're in that industry. But on the other hand, you find companies that have been around for many years, so they may not make a lot of money, but they are sustainable, they're strong, they're always there. So determine the culture you're in. And of course, the best thing to do is look at the management and see how they run their business, whether it's a high-risk type business or whether they have a low-risk attitude towards their business. And finally, if you are in business and you're looking at your income sustainability, then you also have to check for yourself your business viability. Now, I always tell people that when people go into a business, everything looks good in the beginning. It always looks good, all right? But really, you need to really determine how viable is that business. If there is things that don't happen according to what you plan it to be, what will be the impact on your income, and how does that affect you and your family? And whether the business you're going into has high risks that you are taking, all right? So determine your business viability with great honesty, and admit to certain situation may not be forthcoming that will have an impact on the continuity of the business you're in. And then you have to do something to ensure that. So we have covered the first point on sustainable income. The next one to look into is your reserves. Now, this becomes very important because there's no ability to predict what will happen financially out there that will impact you. So having reserves to help you weather through difficult periods becomes an important part, it's necessary, it's what we all should have, right? Now, I learned this question from my mentor, Robert Kiyosaki, and that's called the wealth question. The question is, how long can you last if you stop going to work tomorrow? Meaning that if tomorrow your income just disappeared, the question is, how long can you last? How many days, how many weeks, how many months can you last before you get into trouble? Of course, ideally, the longer you say, the better it is. That means you have financial reserves. If you tell me that you can last 2 years without an income, it shows that you do have some degree of financial resilience. But of course, the ideal answer to that is forever, which means that if you don't go to work tomorrow, you don't have any income tomorrow from your job, somehow, somewhere, there'll be money coming to you from other sources that will sustain you for the rest of your life. That's going to be wonderful. As a matter of fact, that's what each of us should work towards, right? Creating that reserve that will take care of us for the rest of our life. Now, how do we do that? First and foremost, there's something we call passive income. Passive income and income that we make without going to work. So aside from a job income, you may have created passive income in the form of investments that give you dividends, in the form of share of a business that you don't run but you get a share of your profit. There are many, many kinds of passive income. Property that you own, that you rent out. Of course, in a way, all these passive income will somehow be also affected in a financial downturn or a financial difficult situation. But if you are diversified, if you have a spread of different kinds of passive income, you will be able to hedge that correction. If you have a diversified range of passive income, you will be able to balance that off and the impact is going to be less. So first question, do you have any passive income? How many passive income do you have? Is it diversified enough for you to be able to have that safety edge that will not make sure, if, for example, if you have all your investment in property and there's a property downturn, obviously you'll be impacted. But if you have your investment in various segments, then of course you'll be better off. The second thing that you need to be aware of, other than your income, is your expenses, your lifestyle. What kind of lifestyle do you have? Some people spend first, worry later, and they don't worry about whether they have money for the next day or not. Or some people will still spend, but they are conscious of how they're spending and they will have enough to cover for any situation. I am not suggesting that you be a miser. I'm just merely suggesting that you have a lifestyle that is appropriate to your income, and you have a lifestyle that are aware of the kind of expenses that you need to put on to that kind of lifestyle that you intend to have, and you need to cater for possible future situations. So have that awareness, your expenditure per month. The next point about having reserves is also the issue of being debt-free. Being debt-free means you don't have somebody coming after you to pay your monthly, whatever it is. As much as possible, be debt-free as quickly as possible, because that takes a load of concern out of your shoulder. If you have interest to pay, you have installment to pay, you have this to pay and that to pay, and when things don't look good, when your income is not there, when things happen, all this will creep onto you and really be a big pressure, especially people who have high debts. So be debt-free as quickly as possible and avoid the issue of spend now, worry later, which leads on to why a lot of people have high debts. The next thing is savings. And savings, everybody talk about, and you know that how important it is. I mean, I don't need me to tell you about that. You should learn that from the very beginning of your life, that everybody needs to put aside money for a rainy day. But at the end of the day, it's not about the knowledge that saving is important, it's your habit. Habits of whether you put aside money for a rainy day. And there's a rule to say that pay yourself first. Pay yourself first means what? Every time you get your pay, you put some money, 20%, whatever percent you think is ideal, 20% seems to be the one, that you put into savings that you don't touch. That's called paying yourself first. That 20% is you don't touch, you never touch it. You just keep it there and let it grow. And that's how a lot of people acquire the habits of saving that will help them take care of any difficult situation they might face in the future. And the final point is investment. Investment is something that all of us must do, can do, and should do. And it doesn't matter how much income you have. If you put aside a small sum of money, it will be sufficient as you accumulate it to be sufficient for you to put into some kind of investment. It doesn't have to be big, but it just has to be a beginning of something that can grow over time. So start with that, investing in something. It can be your unit trust, it can be your term loan, whatever, anything, something that you can put aside that can earn you an interest and that you don't need to worry so much about it. You must be safe. Now, when I talk about investment, there are also investments that are high risk and can be dangerous. You can lose everything. So you need to be aware of the differences. Now, the typical idea in investment is to have 60% of your entire money that you put aside on the normal investment. Normal means medium risk, medium return, not dangerous, and will be there. Then 20% on the low risk, low return, meaning it will never go away, it will always be there, but the interest is very low. And you might put aside 20% on high risk, high return, meaning you can afford to lose that 20%. Now, but if your investment portfolio is still very small, then you may not even want to touch that 20% of the high risk, high return type of situation. But that's possibly one way by which you plan out your investment, all right, in general. The next area that we want to talk about is protection, protecting yourself. And that typically refers to insurance, like health, for example. And as an individual, you know that anything can happen to your health. And today, medical expenses can be very damaging if you're unprepared or you don't have any form of health insurance that could cover any health issues that you may be facing. A single operation can cost thousands of dollars and could wipe out your savings immediately if you have not purchased any health insurance that will protect you. So that's something you need to consider. And it's just not yours, not just yours. You must also think about those that will depend on you. Your parents' health insurance, people that are financially dependent on you. And when something happens, you are the one who have to bear that. Then you got to be concerned about that. You need to be aware whether there's any health insurance that will take care of that. The other area is protection of your assets. Assets that you own, are they insured? Are they taken care of? If anything happened to that asset, would you be able to recover something? And as we move towards our retirement, it's quite important for all of you to protect your funds, protect the money you put aside. And you need to create what I call your retirement fund in a safe way, that nothing will happen much to it. So consider, even from beginning right now, to create your retirement fund. And you must think in terms of what category of investment should you put your retirement fund into. Right? So these are planning that we need to do. The next point is multiple sources of income. This story that I tell all the time, that nobody should have only one source of income. But having more than one source of income can mean different things to different people. Some people, to them, it just means working harder. But there are always a smarter way, all right? Because the most important thing you're going to realize is that we are limited by one issue, and that is time. So if creating more sources of income means that you have to work harder after your job, you'll go and find another job, that doesn't make sense at all. So I've given a formula called RIC, which is my leverage formula. In other words, you can't do everything by yourself. If you need to create a multiple source of income, you must be able to leverage on many other things that you don't have that will help you create the income. Well, R stands for resources, which means time and money. And then I stands for ideas. You may not have an idea, you can leverage on somebody with the idea. Or you may have time, but you may not have money. Or somebody have time, money, but no time. So you find people who have what you don't have and work with them to create an income source. C stands for context. Maybe you have the R, the resources, time and money. You may have the idea, but you may not have the right context. So you need to find people who can give you those things that you don't have. And finally, E stands for expertise. So it's always possible when you want to create an income, you may have everything, but you don't have the expertise. You need to leverage on somebody who have what you don't have. This is something I've been talking about extensively. Go into my other videos that will go into this topic of the RICE approach to leveraging for creating a wealth. So either you use time or you use money if you want to create more income source. Smarter thing is, of course, to use money rather than use time, because time is limited. But then you're going to ask me, where am I going to make my money? Well, if you have done the first part of savings and putting aside your funds, then that will not be so much of an issue, right? The final part is personal growth and development. At the end of the day, how many of you want to keep doing the same thing for the rest of your life and earn the same kind of income? Obviously not. All of you want to have a higher position, all of you go up the ladder in your career, in your job, and all of you want to earn better salary and higher salary. Now, it's all easy for you to go to the boss and say, I want to increase my pay. But at the end of the day, it's also your personal value. What kind of personal value that you have? What kind of value do you put in the job that will warrant your boss to give you higher pay, right? Now, if the job you do last year, the job you do this year is the same, there's no difference. How do you warrant your boss to give you a 20% increase in pay or 30% increase in pay? You need to also look within yourself to ask yourself, what am I doing to add value to my outcome, to my output in terms of my job that will make my boss want to pay me higher? So we have to take it upon ourselves for continuous development and learning so that we can grow our skills, grow our competency, so that we can get more things done, not necessarily spending more time, but we are more competent in doing things. We can deliver much more value than previously. And learning does not pertain only to your job scope, it also pertains to things like your having a better knowledge of financial matters. All right. So personal growth and development will increase your personal value, will enable you to earn a higher salary and higher income than previously, perhaps. And finally, one of the suggestions I'm going to make to you in terms of financial resilience is to find yourself a financial coach. Get yourself a financial coach who can help you develop your entire financial roadmap for success. Now, it may cost a little bit of money, but at the end of the day, the value that you get far outcome. Correction. It may cost you a little bit of money, but the value you get far exceeds the expenses that you might spend in getting yourself a financial coach. So in conclusion, building financial resilience starts with a plan. So you must have a plan, and I've given you enough information in this session to enable you to start planning. And when do you start? Well, start now. You never know what may happen tomorrow. You never know what may happen next week, next month, or next year. So in this time of uncertainty, it's better that you be certain about your plan. This is KCC in your weekly YouTube. Thank you very much for coming in to listen to me. We have a lot more things to share with you. Remember to subscribe to this channel. Thank you.